So yesterday, Rodney Harrison was all worked up. Rodney Harrison, NBC Sports, Sunday Night Football, former Patriot, great player, borderline Hall of Fame guy, a very, very, very good football player. And he was talking about Patriots not making the Hall of Fame, and he's kind of worked up about it. He goes, people don't think we have ballers. I'm like, Ty Law's the best defensive back I ever played with, Richard Seymour, Willie McGinnis, Tony Brown, Kevin Falk. Those dudes were bad dudes. They weren't just system guys. All I hear is Tom and Bill. It's such a lazy analysis of the New England dynasty. So, first of all, there's only been dynasties don't have as many Hall of Fame players as you think outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s. That's the first dynasty I grew up with. That's when I first started watching TV. They had like 9 guys. They had both receivers, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, the running back, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, the center Mike Webster, Mean Joe Green, 2 linebackers, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Mel Blount. The secondary was their weakness, and it had a Hall of Famer. They were loaded, but you didn't have a salary cap. You could keep guys forever. You didn't have mobility. In the modern era, you can't afford 9 Hall of Fame players. Let's go look at the dynasty. The Dallas Cowboys dynasty is about 20 years ago. Larry Allen, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Deion Sanders, and Charles Haley. And Haley, half of that career was in San Francisco. Now, they had a bunch of good players. Darren Woodson's close. They had a bunch of good players. But they had about 6 Hall of Fame guys. Let's go to the San Francisco 49ers dynasty. That's even further back, right? You had Charles Haley, again, split that with Dallas. Fred Dean, Jerry Rice, 2 quarterbacks, Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Ronnie Lott. You had a bunch of good players like Roger Craig and Randy Cross. You had a bunch of good players. And then if you look at the New England dynasty, well, what do you know? It's kind of about the same thing, about 6 guys. Ty Law, Tom Brady, Adam Vinatieri will make it. Vince Wilfork will make it. Gronkowski will make it. I'd vote in Logan Mankins. And they've had a bunch of good players. But New England lets go of really good players. Richard Seymour would be a Hall of Famer, but they let him go. And Chandler Jones could have been a Hall of Famer with 4 more Pro Bowls in New England. And they let him go. And they let Wes Welker go. And they let Randy Moss go. And I don't count Randy Moss. He'll be a Viking. So that's the culture that has enabled you to be a dynasty. You move off players really, really fast. And with a salary cap. There's not as many football players that make the Hall of Fame. And here's the truth about all these dynasties. They only have 2 things in common. They have a great coach and a great quarterback. That's it. After that, everything is less important. Joe Montana, Steve Young, Bill Walsh. Terry Bradshaw, Chuck Noll. Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Now, you can have a Hall of Fame coach and quarterback and not win Super Bowls. Dan Fouts and Don Coryell, Marv Levy and Jim Kelly. Even when you have it, it's hard. I mean, Drew Brees and Sean Payton have won. Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll have won. So the reality with dynasties in the NFL, because of mobility and salary caps, you've got generally the only 2 things you have to have is a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback. After that, most stuff is replaceable. There are 2 teams in the league right now, 2 franchises in the NFL. If you told me have a chance to be a dynasty, and what I mean by a dynasty, Joy, would be next 12 years, they both get to 4 Super Bowls and win a couple of them. And you kind of feel like a decade, you're kind of and you're in the NFC or AFC championship. The 2 that jump out to me are Kansas City, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. If you told me in the next 12 years they go to 4 Super Bowls and win 2 and get to the AFC Championship another 2 years, I'd be like, all right, yeah, Brady retired. I get it. And the other one would be the L.A. Rams, Sean McVay and Jared Goff. Now, Goff to me has always been a more talented version of Matt Ryan, and everybody keeps telling me, and I agree, Matt Ryan's about the 8th or 9th best quarterback in the league. Jared Goff and Sean McVay, if you told me in the next 12 years they get to 4 more Super Bowls, win a couple, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I can see that happening. Aaron Rodgers getting older. Aaron's now 35. Pete Carroll retires in a couple years. But these dynasties, man, this is why when you own an NFL team, you got to get the coach right, and then the coach and the GM, they got to get the quarterback right. Because dynasties, look at New England, look at Dallas, look at the 49ers. You don't have as many Hall of Famers as you think you would. So I know from time to time, Joy probably hears it all the time from her friends, that Colin is picking on blank. Colin is picking on John Wall, Westbrook. For years and years, it was Tebow. For about a year, it was Johnny Manziel, Carmelo Anthony, anybody that works on my staff. You probably go out, and if you ever tell people I work with Colin, man, what does he have a problem with Westbrook? And he doesn't like John Wall. He doesn't. For Tebow, for about 2 years, I was like, I don't buy it. I would like to acknowledge, though, and Cam Newton is the latest guy, quote, I don't like. So I want to give you a list of people that I didn't buy that you did. Blake Griffin, Tim Tebow, Johnny Manziel, Westbrook Melo, John Wall, Cam Newton, Andy Dalton. At one point, you were telling me they were MVPs, fantastic, Super Bowl quarterbacks, gonna run the league. And I was like, no. They're talented. But they're not that guy. So Cam Newton is the latest where anytime I criticize him, why don't you like him? Well, it looks like now people beyond me, just because I'm ahead of the curve doesn't mean I'm wrong. If Westbrook did have 4 titles, if Cam had 3 Super Bowls, or was as consistent as Breeze or Russell Wilson, you could call me out. But when I'm right on all these, at some point, I'm just ahead of everybody. So I was ahead of Jan Westbrook. I was ahead of Jan Wall. I was ahead of Jan Derrick Rose. I was ahead of Jan Tebow. I was ahead of Jan Manziel. I'm ahead of you now on Andy Dalton, and I'm ahead of you on Cam Newton. The NFL.com is releasing their top 100 players list, and Cam Newton is 87, behind Darius Slay of the Lions, behind Kirk Cousins by 10 spots, behind Leighton Vander Esch, a linebacker from Boise who just arrived in the league 40 minutes ago. NFL.com is just late to the party. By the way, earlier this week, 55 executives and GMs around the league voted on quarterbacks. Cam Newton was voted a Tier 3 quarterback. Talented, but really needs a lot around him to win. For the record, the last 3 years with Cam Newton, 65 touchdowns, 43 picks, 59.8 completion percentage, 83 passer rating, 23 wins, 21 losses. That is with stability in the coaching staff. That is with, on average, over the last 3 years, better than average O-lines, with real running games, Christian McCaffrey, with a Hall of Fame, in my opinion, Greg Olsen, tight end, although he's hurt from time to time. You're not a hater if you're right. You're just early on the criticism. I never bought Melo. I never bought Tebow. I never bought Manziel. I never bought Andy Dalton. I never bought Derrick Rose. I never bought Westbrook. And I never bought Cam. And now the NFL and executives and people who have been in the league and vote are siding with me. Now, Jason Whitlock does not want to hear my opinion.
But I start every football season with the belief that Cam is capable of duplicating his 2015 MVP season. I pretty much start every year believing he will return to MVP form. Why? Because Cam Newton has a genuine competitive fire on the same level as Drew Brees and Tom Brady. The game is important to Cam. Being great is important to Cam. The 30-year-old quarterback is just walking into his prime years. I believe Cam's best playing days are still all in front of him and not behind.
I always wondered if Jason Whitlock was crazy. This morning, he officially is. Cam Newton is Ben Roethlisberger, not as good. He came into this league bizarrely, uniquely sized. Both had a little off-field baggage. Cam in college, Big Ben first couple years in the league. Both are transfixing athletes, uniquely large, often throw the ball moving better than the pocket, capable of unbelievable individual displays, and both have been hit so much over time, they're not quite where they were. They don't like getting hit as much, have now struggled with precision and accuracy as the league moves into a precision accuracy league. That's why little Drew Brees without a big arm can succeed to the level he succeeds over the last 5 years, and Big Ben and Cam, very similar players, Ben is better, have struggled over the last 5 years. I'm not anti-Cam. I think I'm early Cam. NFL.com And now 55 execs and an anonymous poll now both agree with me. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.